Welcome to Old Testament History, Chapter 3, Session 11b, In the Wilderness, Part 2. We've seen the best of Israel and the worst of Israel here in the wilderness. Some spirit-filled believers built the tabernacle, and other remarkable men were chosen to rule Israel. But on the other hand, others murmured and resisted and rebelled, and some of them got so far out from under God's protection that they died in the wilderness. Out there in the wilderness, there were few compromises. It was a dangerous and unforgiving place, not a logical place for thousands of people to live in. Israel had undergone radical social, political, and religious change in a very short time. And people don't like change. Have you noticed? It required miracles every day to sustain them. The manna cycle, the water from the rock, the pillars of cloud and fire, and not the least, the spirit-filled leadership of Moses, and later on the 70. To prosper in this environment, one had to be a believer and obey God. Those who would not adapt to the changes, who resisted the changes, were filtered out. The wilderness was a bad place to be without provision and protection, that's for sure. And we are now going to see this process clearly, apparently, starkly, and in Technicolor with Dolby sound. Would the people measure up? The tabernacle was set up for the first time, and the priests in the services of the tabernacle were begun. And when Aaron was installed and started all of that, God lit the fire. Leviticus chapter 9, verse 22. Leviticus chapter 9, verse 22. And Aaron lifted up his hand towards the people and blessed them, and came down from offering of the sin offering, and the burnt offering, and the peace offerings. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of the congregation, and came out, and blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the people. And there came a fire out from before the Lord, and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fat, which, when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces. So that was God's miraculous fire. It was not like at Boy Scout Camp Miaconda, when the Boy Scouts came out and danced like Indians, and the campfire was sitting there pre-soaked in kerosene, and they had two wires that ran under the sand over to a pine tree about 10 feet away. And in the pine tree thicket was a Boy Scout that hooked up the other two ends of the wires to a 6-volt battery at the appropriate time, and it sparked and set the fire on fire. No, it did not work that way with the tabernacle. God lit the fire just like he did with Elijah. And once God lit the fire, it was to be kept burning, and all the subsequent sacrificial altar fires were to be kindled from that fire, like an eternal flame kind of thing. But Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, violated that rule. They offered strange fire, something that they had kindled separately. Leviticus chapter 10. Leviticus chapter 10, verse 1. And Nadab and Abihu, sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer, and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire, before the Lord, which he commanded them not. It was kindled separately. And there went a fire out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, this is that which the Lord spake, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me, and before all the people will I be glorified. And Aaron held his peace. See, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me. The people that come nigh me, he's speaking of the priests that do the service. And God's separate. He's holy. One must treat him as special because he is. And so they need to obey his rules. That's what he was saying. Verse 4, and Moses called Mishael and Elizaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, come near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp. So they went near and carried them in their coats out of the camp, as Moses had said. And Moses said to Aaron and unto Eleazar and unto Ithamar his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, so don't mourn, lest you die, and lest wrath come upon all the people, but let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled. So in other words, in the law it said the priests cannot mourn. And you shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. For the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moses. So later on here in Leviticus, it discusses the clean and unclean food. It describes all the feasts throughout the rest of the book of Leviticus. We'll get into some of that later. So now we'll start the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers. It's called Numbers because they took a census. It's approximately 150 miles from Mount Horeb to where the Jordan River crossing is. Under normal circumstances, that trip would take about 2 weeks, because we know how fast they traveled from before when they traveled to the crossing place over the Red Sea. We covered that in a prior session. But they were out in the wilderness. God and the believers, and also the adversary was there, and he was working on them. And they started complaining. Look at Numbers 11. After the census, Numbers 11, verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. Well, why are they complaining? They're getting all their needs met. They're no longer slaves. They have all this riches from Egypt. Why are they complaining? Like, duh. And the Lord heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. Okay. Wow. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, made intercession, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. Now, you have to understand this from the standpoint of the idiom of permission. They got so far out of fellowship when they did something so stupid, because all their needs were met. They had the manna cycle, they had the water, they had a pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night. They had all the miracles that they saw every day almost. They saw the spirituality of Moses, and yet they still complained. Well, that was so far out that they were outside of God's protection. Well, who offed them? Did God or did the adversary? The adversary did. That's how that works. But they couldn't say the adversary did it because they weren't allowed to say the name of other gods. They didn't give him a shred of glory. So they couched everything as if the Lord did it. But that's that idiom of permission. You see how that works? So, verse 4. Chapter 11, verse 4. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting. Woo! And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers, and the melons, and the leeks, and the onions, and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away, and there's nothing at all besides this manna. Of course, that manna is Hebrew for what is it? Before our eyes. Verse 7, and the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. You know what that is, right? And the people went about and gathered it and ground it in mills and beat it into mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. You know, it was like Iron Chef. And the secret ingredient is manna. Cuisine. Oh no, it's manna again. Just like in the cartoon with Yosemite Sam. Beans. 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 Beans for breakfast. Beans for lunch. Beans for supper. Beans. I'm sick of beans. Except it was, what is it? It was manna. What is it? Ah! And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell on it. And when Moses heard the people weep throughout all their families, every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly, and Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that you lay all the burden of this people on me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that you should say to me, Carry you them in your bosom, as a nursing father bears a sucking child, unto the land which thou swarest unto their fathers? When should I have flesh to give all this people? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us meat, that we can eat. I'm not able to bear all this people alone. It's too heavy for me. This is the 70 elders incident that we covered. If thou dost deal with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of the hand, if I found favor in thy sight. I just can't stand this anymore. And let me not see my wretchedness. And the Lord said to Moses, Gather the 70 men of the elders. So they got the 70 elders together, and they would help bear the burden of the leadership. All right? Verse 18. And say thou unto the people, Sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and you're going to have meat. For you've wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, Who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore, the Lord's going to give you flesh, and you're going to eat. And you're not going to eat one day, nor 2 days, nor even 5 days, nor 10 days, nor even 20 days, but a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils, until it's loathsome unto you, because you've despised the Lord which is among you, and have wept before him, saying, Why came we forth out of Egypt? And Moses said, The people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen, or could be 600 clans. That word thousand can go either way, like we covered. As thou hast said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month. Well, shall flocks and herds be slain for them to suffice them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered for them to suffice them? And the Lord said to Moses, Well, is the Lord's hands waxed short? You're going to see now whether my word will come to pass to you or not. So Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. Of course, they gathered the 70 elders, like we had covered earlier, and they all started prophesying. And then verse 31. And there went forth a wind from the Lord, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and a day's journey on the other side. So a day's journey could be anywhere from 10 to 20 miles on either side. Wow. Round about the camp, as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. So 2 cubits high is about 36 inches. These were flying about 3 feet off the ground. Okay? Quails. And the people stood up all that day, and all that night, and all the next day. And they were gathering the quails. They were beating them overhead and grabbing this one and grabbing that one and grabbing this one and grabbing that one. And he that gathered least gathered 10 homers. Yeah, you know how much that is, right? And they spread them all for themselves round about the camp. Okay, well, I looked it up. A homer is a biblical unit of volume used for liquids and dry goods. 1 homer is equal to 10 baths. You know how much that is, right? It is also equivalent to 30 se'ahs. You know what that is, right? Each se'ah being the equivalent in volume to 6 cobs. See, that makes it clear. And each cob equivalent in volume to about 24 eggs. There's another thing that I looked up, makes it a little bit more clear, okay? In this part of the world, there's a common quail. The Latin name is Coturnix. It's a member of the pheasant family, so it's probably pretty good eating. But it's not very big. A little over 7 inches long on the average, and weighs about 4 ounces. It's very widespread. You can find it in Europe, Asia, and Africa. So there must have been a lot of them, because a homer is 220 liters. 1 homer is about 58 gallons. So he that gathered least gathered about 575 gallons of these little birds. In other words, about 18 big garbage cans full. That's about 3 cubic yards of birds, enough to fill the bed of a full-size pickup truck to overflowing, mounded high, about 475 pounds. Okay? So each head of the house got that much. So they started eating them. And verse 33, chapter 11, verse 33, and while the flesh was ere between their teeth, ere before it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague. And he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. Oh, what's that mean? How's that work? Well, quail meat is very rich. They'd been eating manna for quite a while. And eating too much quail meat right after that could make you really sick if you didn't watch yourself. I remember doing something called the colon cleanse when I was in the former ministry. It was supposed to make you healthy and be a fresh start for better eating habits. So this cleanse stuff, you took vitamins, and then you had to drink this special gunk. I think it was called bentonite. And then afterwards, you did this for like 2 weeks, and it cleaned you out. And so you were supposed to introduce solid foods really slow after that. Fruit at first, and the next day veggies, etc. But I knew of one guy who was so hungry after eating that gunk for 2 weeks that the next thing after he finished the cleanse, he went and got a Big Mac. They had to take him to the hospital. So, same thing with quail. A lot of quail following immediately after the diet of manna. You can imagine the nurse in the Israeli emergency room says to the Israelites, well, what did you eat? Lots of quail. And the nurse asks, well, what did you eat before that? Manna. Well, what is that? Yes, it was that. No, what was it? Yeah, it was that. It was manna. What is it? That's what manna is. Don't you know? I mean, if you want me to diagnose your condition, you're going to have to tell me what manna is. What is it? Yeah, that's right. It sounds like who's on first, but it's accurate with the biblical languages, because in Hebrew, manna means, what is it? The only thing that's not accurate in that skit is I spared you the puke noises. Oh, anyway, so they got their meat for a whole month. Oh. So anyway, that's what happened out in the wilderness. A bunch of other stuff happened out in the wilderness too, because the adversary was working on them. Chapter 12, verse 1. And Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses. We covered this one too, because the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. So this is the chronology of when this happened, for he married an Ethiopian woman. Then they said, hath the Lord spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken by us? And the Lord heard it. Of course, you know what happened the rest of that incident. So, I mean, they weren't doing very well out there in the boonies. The next incident is in Numbers, is regarding the spies. They were going to reconnoiter the promised land. Look at chapter 13. Chapter 13, verse 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all those men that were heads of the children of Israel. Verse 17. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said to them, get you up this way, southward, and go into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring the fruit of the land. Now, the time that they did this was of the time of the first ripe grapes. In other words, July. Verse 21. So they went up, searched the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And they came unto the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two upon a staff. So this cluster was like 4 or 5 feet long. All right, it was huge. One cluster of grapes. All right, and they brought of the pomegranates and the figs, and the place was called the brook Eshcol, because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, to the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came into the land whither thou sentest, and surely it flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Now, that doesn't mean there was milk all over and gooey honey all over it. No, milk and honey are symbolic. Others produce it, and all you do is harvest it. The cows do all the work, you just milk them. The bees do all the work, you just get the honey. So it's plenteous and easy pickings is what this land was like. All right? Verse 28. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell therein in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. And the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, by the east of Jordan. Verse 30, and Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, because they're stronger than we are. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it were men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so were we in their sight. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. In other words, the children of Israel were short guys, and these children of Anak were like 6-foot guys. Reminds me of my high school basketball team. It seemed like all of our people that we played were always taller than we were. But anyway, that's how much the adversary was working on them. Because, it's like duh. I mean double duh. No, triple duh with manna on top. They had the witness of the power of God with them continuously. They had the manna cycle. They had a pillar of fire and the cloud. They knew God was present with them. Remember how God delivered them from the most powerful army in the world? And yet, the adversary was working on them, and they couldn't put 2 and 2 together like Caleb did. And they said, oh, it's just going to eat us up. That's how much the adversary worked on them. Chapter 14, verse 2. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God that we had died in the wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land, to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? And they said one to another, let's make a captain. Let's return to Egypt. Like, duh! And then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel, because they knew what was going to happen. They were making intercession. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. And they spoke to all the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only rebel not against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us, and their defense is departed from them. And the Lord's with us. Don't be afraid of them. But all the congregation bade stone them with stones. And the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. Whoa, whoa, Nelly. God was bothered. Chapter 14, verse 11. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe me? For all the signs which I've showed among them, I will smite them with a pestilence and disinherit them, and I'll make of you a greater nation and mightier than they. And Moses said to the Lord, well, you know what? If that happens, then the Egyptians shall hear it. For you brought up this people in your might from among them. And they're going to tell it to the inhabitants of this land. For they've heard that the Lord is among this people, that thou art seen face to face, and that your cloud stands over them, and that you go before them by daytime in a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire by night. Now, if you shall kill all this people as one man, then the nations which have heard the fame of thee will speak. They're going to say, because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land which he sware unto them, therefore he slew them in the wilderness. And now I beseech thee, Moses said to God, let the power of my Lord be great, according as thou hast spoken, saying. And then he reminds him of what God had said. Verse 18, the Lord is long-suffering. Remember, you said that, God, right? And of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. Pardon, I beseech thee, the iniquity of this people, according to the greatness of thy mercy, and as thou hast forgiven this people from Egypt, even unto now. This is why Moses is the greatest interceder in the Old Testament. Verse 20, the Lord said, I've pardoned according to your word. But as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it, except my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him, and had followed me fully. Him will I bring into the land whereunto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Joshua is the other guy that will survive. And so, verse 25, God said, tomorrow, turn around and get you going into the way of the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. And so now, a trip that would have taken 2 weeks of travel will take 40 years. Wow. Verse 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation, which murmur against me? I've heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Say unto them, as truly as I live, saith the Lord, as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and up, which have murmured against me. Doubtless you shall not come into the land, concerning which I swear unto make you dwell therein, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun, because they were the only two of the spies that vouched for the land. Everyone else spoke against it. But your little ones, verse 31, which you said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness, and your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness, after the number of the days which you searched the land. Even 40 days, each day for a year, shall you bear your iniquities, even 40 years. And you shall know my breach of promise. I, the Lord, have said, and will surely do it unto all this evil congregation that are gathered together against me in this wilderness. They shall be consumed, and there they shall die. And the men which Moses sent to search the land, who returned and made all the congregations to murmur against him, by bringing up a slander unto the land, even those men that did bring up the evil report of the land, died by plague before the Lord. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of the men that went to search the land, lived still. And Moses told these sayings unto all the children of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. Now, you would think that they learned their lesson, but it got worse. Look at chapter 16, verse 1. The adversary is working on them. I mean, they still had the manna every day, except the Sabbath. There's twice as much the day before. They still had the pillar of cloud by day. They still had the pillar of fire by night. They still had the obvious spiritual guidance of the great man of God, Moses. And yet, they still rejected. Look at chapter 16, verse 1. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, he's a Levite, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelah, the son of Reuben, took men. They rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said, You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord's among them. Wherefore then lift you up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. And when Moses heard it, he fell on his face, because he knew what was coming. And he spoke to Korah and unto his company, saying, Even tomorrow the Lord will show who are his, and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him, even him whom he hath chosen, will he cause to come near unto him. So, here's what we do. You guys take yourselves censers, Korah and all his company, and you put fire therein, and you put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord doth choose, he shall be holy. You take too much upon you, you sons of Levi. And Moses said unto Korah, Hear, I pray you, you sons of Levi, seemeth it but a small thing to you, that the God of Israel hath separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation, to minister unto them? And he hath brought thee near to him, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee. Well, do you want the priesthood too? For which cause both thou and thy company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron, that you murmur against him? And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, which said, we won't come. We're not coming. It is a small thing that you brought us up out of the land that flows with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness. What? They just called Egypt a land that flowed with milk and honey, where they were slaves. To kill us in the wilderness, except thou makest altogether a prince over us. Moreover, thou hast not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? You're making us blind. You think we're blind, we can't see. We won't come up. Verse 15. And Moses was very angry, and said to the Lord, respect not their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said to Korah, be thou and all thy company before the Lord, thou and they and Aaron tomorrow. Every man take a censer, put incense in them. Bring ye before the Lord, every man his censer, 250 censers, thou also and Aaron, each of you his censer. And they took every man his censer, put fire in them, laid incense on them, stood at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the congregation. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces, they prayed, made intercession, and said, O God, the God of the spirits of the earth, shall one man sin? And will you be wroth with all the congregation? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get you up from around the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Get away from them. And Moses rose up and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. So they got up from the congregation of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, their wives and their sons, and their little children. And Moses said, hereby you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of mine own hand. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord hath not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertains to them, if they go down alive into the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. Verse 31, and it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses and their men that appertained to Korah and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And there came out a fire from the Lord and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. You know where they were? There is a fault zone that runs all the way down the Jordan River Valley through the Dead Sea. It's a major strike slip kind of fault. Goes south of the Dead Sea Basin, the Wadi Araba fault, and extends over 160 kilometers all the way down into the Gulf of Aqaba. The Dead Sea Fault Zone is known to have produced several large historical earthquakes. That's what happened. Wow. Verse 41. you would think they learned their lesson. But verse 41. But on the morrow, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, saying, "You've killed the people of the Lord." And it came to pass when the congregation was gathered against Moses and against Aaron, that they looked toward the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. And Moses and Aaron came before the tabernacle of the congregation, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, "Get you up from among this congregation, that I may consume them as in a moment." And they fell on their faces. They didn't say, "Sure, we're sick of them too." No, they made intercession. And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a censer, put fire thereon from off the altar, put on incense, go quickly unto the congregation, and make an atonement for them. For there's wrath gone out from the Lord, and the plague is begun." And the Lord took as Moses commanded, ran into the midst of the congregation. And behold, the plague was begun among the people, and he put on incense, and he made atonement for the people. He was praying, making intercession. And he stood between the dead and the living in the gap. And the plague was stayed. Now they that died in the plague were 14,700, besides them that died in the matter of Korah. And Aaron returned unto Moses unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed. Wow. That was incredible. But see, God showed them all of those great miracles, and they'd have to be stupider than stupid to not believe in him. Yet they murmured, they rebelled, and all of this happened. So now, they're going to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, and all of the older generation who saw all those miracles but would not believe would die off, and their children, who they said would be a prey, would grow up to be the ones who would take the promised land. It was like they had a 40-year boot camp. And those 20 years old and upward or under that grew up, they became the army that took the promised land. And we're going to learn about that next week. So bless you.